Leo XII, the infamous project of the secret societies. Drawing his conclusions from these three documents, Pope Leo XII then says in turn what he thinks of these societies, and names another. Quote, "Little time had elapsed after the publication of this bull by Pius VII, when we were called to succeed him on the Holy See. Immediately we began to study the state and number and the power of these secret associations, and we easily recognized that their audacity had grown by the new sects that had attached themselves to it. The one designated by the name academic, universitaire, especially held our attention. It has been established in several universities, and the young people, instead of being instructed, are perverted by masters initiated in mysteries that could well be called mysteries of iniquity, and trained for every crime. Whence it comes that such a long time after the flame of revolt had been kindled for the first time in Europe by the secret societies, and had been carried abroad by their agents, after the brilliant victories won by the most powerful princes, and which had made us hope to see the suppression of these societies, none the less their culpable exertions have still not ceased. For even in the same countries where the former tempests seemed to have been stilled, are not new disturbances to be feared, new seditions that these societies plot incessantly? Does one not fear the impious daggers with which they strike down in secret those whom they have sentenced to death?" End quote. The Pope returns to the observations of his predecessor. Quote, "The frightful calamities that desolate the Church everywhere must be attributed to these associations. Audaciously they attack its dogma, its most sacred precepts, and attempt to disparage its authority. It must not be imagined that by calumny we falsely attribute to these secret associations all the evils and others that we do not name. The works that their members have dared to publish on religion and on the commonwealth, their contempt for authority, their hatred of sovereignty, their attacks against the divinity of Jesus Christ, and the very existence of God, the materialism that they profess, their codes and statutes which demonstrate their projects and their goals, prove that we have related of their efforts to overthrow legitimate princes, to shake the foundations of the Church, and, which is equally certain, these different associations, albeit bearing different designations, are allied in their infamous projects." End quote. There is then a real organization. Hence the reminder, quote, "We think that it is our duty once again to condemn these secret associations." End quote. The duties of chiefs of state. Thus falls the fourth condemnation in less than a century. Before concluding, Leo XII addresses the Catholic princes. Quote, "Catholic princes, our very dear sons in Jesus Christ, for whom we have a special affection, we earnestly ask you to come to our aid. We shall remind you of these words of Leo the Great, our predecessor, whose name we bear, although unworthy to be compared to him, addressed to the Emperor Leo. Quote, "You must incessantly remind yourself that the royal power has not been confided to you just for governing the world, but even more, and mainly, for lending a strong arm to the Church, by repressing the wicked with courage, by upholding good laws, and by re-establishing order wherever it has been disturbed." End quote. This is a principle that many in our day do not grasp. Power has not been given to princes merely for the exercise of temporal power, but also for the defense of the Church. The princes must aid the propagation of the good that the Church diffuses throughout society by courageously opposing the wicked. Nowadays, a hue and cry is raised for freedom. When a head of state, for example, limits the freedom of the Protestant religion, howls resound in the progressive world. Yet, the fact that the liberty preached by Protestantism quickly becomes a doctrine of revolution must be borne in mind. Morality itself is dissolved, contrary to Catholic morals. And if all the liberties were granted to the Muslims, it would mean that polygamy would have to be allowed by the states. Islam does not merely consist in the public prostrations the Muslims make in the streets at the hour of prayer. It also means the threat of slavery, that is, the dhimmi for all those who are not like them. Can this be allowed in Catholic states? Can these states be obliged not to defend themselves?